This question of to what extent the cabinet backed President Yoon is shrouded in obscurity. I mean, the cabinet did meet. It was convened by President Yoon, who then effectively, having announced he was going to do this and facing some opposition from within cabinet, simply proceeded with that martial law declaration.
Now, South Korea has voted to impeach its acting president, Han Duck-Soo, just 2 weeks after Parliament impeached the former President Yoon Suk-yeol. Opposition MPs are calling for Han's removal after allegedly failing to complete the demands of Yoon's impeachment process. Another acting South Korean president in the fold, then Choi Sang-mok, called the situation unprecedented. I speak to Dr. John Nilsson-Wright. He's head of the Japan and Koreas programme at the Centre for Geopolitics at the University of Cambridge. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
What is going on in South Korea? Why can't they hang on to a president?
Well, it's a bit bewildering, isn't it, to see all of this change? The key issue, at least from the vantage point of the opposition, is the role of the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court's job is to uphold, or rather to rule, to make a decision on that original impeachment measure that removed President Yoon or suspended him from his duties. For that court to make a decision, it needs a majority. It has 9 members, but currently only 6 of those 9 seats have been filled. So the National Assembly has been working to appoint 3 other justices. Former acting President Han, the man who's just been impeached and also suspended from office, was accused by the opposition of refusing to endorse the appointment of those 3 extra justices. And that was a great source of concern to the opposition because they felt that there was a risk that once the court met, it can still meet with just 6 justices, it would have to deliver a unanimous verdict upholding that original impeachment decision. So from their point of view, there was a risk that President Yoon would not in fact be impeached. And that's why they moved against him. There were a couple of other minor issues that also relate to the constitutionality of these decisions, but that was their basic position.
So the 3 extra justices needed. Why did Han Duck-Soo refuse to endorse them?
Well, that's the $60,000 question, really. He claims that there needed to be a bipartisan consensus. The most charitable interpretation is to say that the individuals who had been nominated were perhaps too closely aligned with the opposition Democratic Party. The less charitable interpretation is the argument made by the opposition that Han is himself dragging his feet, or was dragging his feet, and in fact, according to the leader of the opposition, Lee Jae-myung, his argument was that Mr. Han was in fact in cahoots with with suspended President Yoon and was in fact supportive of the initial martial law declaration of 2 weeks ago. If that's the case, of course, that's a very grave accusation. And it suggests that there's a complete breakdown in trust between the opposition and the government party.
And that's going to be the issue, and we're already seeing it being a recurring issue as well. I mean, is the opposition too trigger happy? Do they have a point with their opposition to what the acting president is trying to do, or are they being deliberately, awkward?
I think it probably reflects a deeper polarization of politics in South Korea. It's a high-risk gamble, I would say, on the part of the opposition. Because the next question is, will the new acting president, Choi Sang-mok, will he in fact endorse the appointment of those 3 additional constitutional justices? Because we might see, if he adopts the same position as his predecessor, we might have another impeachment motion. And essentially, the opposition, if it's minded to, can keep using this weapon to the point at which the cabinet won't be quorate. They'll basically keep going through members of the cabinet, and we'll end up in a situation where there is no cabinet, and therefore all decision-making passes to the National Assembly. It sounds farcical. Meanwhile, of course, the economy is tanking. We've seen the won, the South Korean currency, drop to its lowest level in 16 years. There are real concerns about further economic instability. That's why Acting President Choi has been so keen to emphasize the importance of stability. That's why that quote that you played, that excerpt from his speech, emphasizing the importance of security and the relationship with the United States. All of that is an effort to try and create a sense of political normality in a situation which is anything but normal.
Yeah. What do we know about the new acting President Choi?
He has been serving in the current government as both Deputy Prime Minister, Finance Minister, and Economy Minister. So he's got three portfolios, if you like. Now he's playing this additional role as acting president. So he has a huge task on his hand. If he's smart, he'll appoint someone to replace himself in one or both of those roles, finance and economics minister. He's a veteran. He served in previous Conservative administrations. In that sense, he is experienced and therefore, I suppose, would be seen as a safe pair of hands. Where he stands on the ideological spectrum is hard to say. Nobody has raised any questions about whether, in fact, he was sympathetic to President Yoon's martial law order. But this question of to what extent the cabinet backed President Yoon is shrouded in obscurity. I mean, the cabinet did meet. It was convened by President Yoon, who then effectively, having announced he was going to do this and facing some opposition from within cabinet, simply proceeded with that martial law declaration. So there's an element of uncertainty about Mr. Choi's culpability or support for that early decision. But for now, I think what we will see is the acting president trying to show that he's working with the opposition. Initially, the opposition was minded, when Mr. Han was appointed, to try and strike its own bipartisan note, but that has now collapsed in real acrimony. The scenes we saw in the National Assembly yesterday, when this impeachment vote was passed, were a sign of just how much the Conservative Party is opposed to what the Democrats are doing at the moment.
Yeah, there is definitely a barrier between both, and never the two shall meet at the moment. I mean, what does this do for public confidence in the political system there?
For now, I think, I mean, we saw, of course, in the response to the martial law declaration and the initial impeachment votes, the first a few days after President Yoon made his announcement, and then the second successful one about 2 weeks afterwards, we saw, I think, a great outpouring of strong public support for the opposition party. More than 75% of the South Korean public supported that impeachment vote. I think it will remain for now supportive of what the opposition party is doing. But there is a danger that this will inflame opinion, particularly on the far right of the political spectrum. One of the things that's really striking about the current news environment is just how much the YouTube community has shaped some of the political discourse. And this is contributing, as social media has done in so many other political situations, to the sharp divide between left and right. And we will see, I think, demonstrations today in Seoul by groups on the far right and more moderate voices on the left, trying to support their respective positions. So far, that has all happened in a way that is consistent with democratic norms. People are given the opportunity to protest, as is their right. But at the moment, we still have a lot of political paralysis, and that's the big concern, I think, looking forward.
Look, it's such an interesting story, and it continues to rumble on. Thank you very much for taking us through it, Dr. John Nilsson-Wright, head of the Japan and Careers programme at the Centre for Geopolitics at the University of Cambridge. Good to be with you. Thank you.